Isn't that just gorgeous? PLA carbon fiber? I was not aware of your game. Hello and welcome back to Pushing Free Will, a YouTube channel dedicated to everything 3D printing related or Star Wars cosplay. And in today's episode I'm going to be trying something I have never done before, and that is printing a carbon fiber composite. For those of you who don't know what that is, a carbon fiber composite is just your regular filament like PLA, PETG, or even stuff like nylon, but added in are tiny carbon fiber needles that you can't even see with your bare eyes. This has both positive and negative effects, one of the positives being that the filament will get more stiff, but it can also get too stiff, which makes it brittle, and you can also have less layer adhesion because there's less plastic to plastic contact. The filament that I ended up choosing for this video is Bambulab's PLA carbon fiber, and I chose this kind of arbitrarily based off what I know, and what I do know is that PLA is one of the easiest, if not the easiest filament to print, so it can't be that much harder with carbon fiber, right? So we will find out in this video. The first things I noticed out of the box were the incredible cool finish of this filament and also how brittle it was. I don't know if it's supposed to be like this because it is PLA and carbon fiber, which is a combination that should be pretty brittle, or if my filament is just waterlogged. I decided I'm gonna find out and I'm just gonna dry it in my filament dryer. Off we go to the dryer. I dried this for 4 hours at 55 degrees Celsius and rotated the spool occasionally to dry it evenly. After 4 hours of drying and letting the filament cool off, I broke off a strand to test it again. And as you can see, the filament was still pretty brittle, and I still didn't know at that point what that was, but it turned out to be a combination of both. To compare this to some other filament, this is PETG carbon fiber from Extrudr, which you can see exhibits none of the other symptoms. You can pretty clearly see that unlike PLA carbon fiber, this one bends a lot before snapping. And so off I went to the dryer again to dry it for the same length with the same heat as before, just to have it twice as long in the end, and I'm gonna see how that turns out. Here we are at it again with another strand of the PLA carbon fiber, and as you can see, it doesn't break as violently as before, which I think is a good sign that most of the moisture is gone. I've noticed that on some parts is more than others, but I think it is good to put in the printer. Okay, it might be a bit hard to see, but I did get the filament loaded successfully without anything snapping in the PTFE tube. So it is brittle, but I guess it's not brittle enough to do that. The two models I wanted to test are, of course, the 3D Benchy to get a direct comparison to other filaments that I own, and also a part that I designed in FreeCAD that's supposed to resemble a bracket that also has an overhang, so I can test that as well. Overall, everything printed super well and I had no problems at all. In fact, it was going a little too well in my opinion, and I had no issues, and especially the supports, as you can see now, came off super good. That's insane, dude. Look at that. That just came clean off. Wow, okay. That's crazy. Okay, let's take a little bit of a closer look at these parts. Also, I'm wearing gloves. I'm gonna get to why I'm doing that later. But I have another Benchy with just black PLA here, and I'm just gonna compare it. And you can see the texture is just really cool on this one. I mean, you can practically see why many people just use this aesthetically and not even for the other purposes. The Benchy is, well, flawless. There's no lines, or they are hidden very well. The underside is perfect. There's a lot of detail on the back, and the only thing that I have seen is that these overhangs here did not print super perfectly, but that might also be a printer issue. Here as well, this part just looks super good. It is super pretty from top to bottom, and especially these overhangs. I gotta say, PLA carbon fiber, I was not aware of your game. But as pretty as these parts look, I'm wearing gloves because they can be dangerous. These are carbon fibers that we are speaking about. They can get everywhere, in your skin when touching them, in your lungs when breathing them, via sanding or just it getting into the air some way or another, and that is why I wanted to try something else, and that is clear coating, which is a pretty cheap and solid method to make carbon fiber prints touchable. The only things you will need for this is a clear coat, a mask, and a part of your choice. You can see me doing this outside and wearing a mask to protect me from the dirty fumes of the spray, and I recommend you do this outside as well, or at least in a very well ventilated area because, well, safety's first, as I always say. When spraying, it is really easy to overspray, and also shake the can, give it a good shake, okay? But after that, when you spray, don't go too heavy because it is quite hard to see what you're doing when the spray that you're spraying doesn't have a color. So go light so you don't regret it later. Here with the clear coat you can go two routes. You can go the glossy route to get a shiny finish, or you can get a matte clear coat to stick with the look of the original carbon fiber. I only had a clear one at hand, but I would have liked the matte one more because I quite appreciate the look of the carbon fiber. Once you're done, it should look somewhat like this, and now you can just leave it to dry. Alright, so this is how the part turned out. It looks pretty much the same as before, maybe a little bit more shiny, which I actually really enjoy, so it looks different from the other one, logically, but I think this one actually looks better. I prefer this one. And it's also safe to touch now, which is pretty cool, so I won't get carbon fiber in my fingies, and I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, overall, having tested this, it's a success. If you want to see me do this with PETG carbon fiber as well, I can do that. Just leave a comment, like and subscribe. Maybe come back for more if you liked the video. So overall, I'm really surprised with this filament, and I'm definitely going to be using it soon. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for your attention, and have a great day.